This is the old house. This is la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Behold how good this is. Behold how good this is. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Behold how good this is. Behold how good this is. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Behold how good this is. Behold how good this is. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Behold how good this is. Behold how good this is. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Source of creation, thank you for the miracle of these bodies and this breath, for the sacred opportunity to come together in this way, for this aliveness, and for this community. First peoples of this place, whose bodies are this land, and whose home is where we make our home and our prayer today. We give our great respects to you. More than human world, but is the web what we weave inside of is such a gift to be your kin, bright and benevolent ancestors of we gather. You who are a source of connection, guidance, blessing, and goodness, thank you for leading into our lives and to our time together this day. Make it for greatest good. Pulsing presence, thank you, and thank you to all who gather to lead this day. I feel so heartened and happy to be here weaving chapel with each of you. This is our annual high holidays, multi-religious high holidays chapel. And the timing today is quite divine because this day right now is the moment, the holiday known as Simchat Torah, the joy of Torah. And it is the last day of the whole high holiday season. So there have been many, 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 many holidays for people who are practicing the Jewish calendar. There's the New Year. And the month before the New Year had lots of prayers. Then there's the New Year. Then 10 days later, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and then the Harvest Festival for a week. And today is the moment when it all wraps itself into completion. And it wraps itself into completion as a holiday of beginning. It's the holiday when we begin the cycle of reading the sacred texts, the Torah, again for the year to come. As you may know, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, is written in a scroll form. And Jews around the world read a section each week, the same section each week. We follow this map. And today is the day that we start the cycle anew. So last night was read the very last words of Torah. We re-roll the scroll and begin again anew. And it's become our custom in our High Holidays Chapel here at Star King to hear these words chanted. And this is a particularly auspicious day to hear them chanted because it's the real day they get chanted. And as we enter into our celebration and our weaving, I feel really deeply excited to be weaving multi-religiously and with words and teachings of our beloved Sheikh Ibrahim Baba. At the beginning of every Jewish holiday, it's a custom to light candles. We light 2 candles. There are lots of different teachings on why 2. Whatever you make up in your mind is probably as good as any of them. There are so many different stories about why 2. And one that I like is that the 2 are about keeping the structure of the sacred time and also keeping the heart of the sacred time. And so the dance between the structure and the flow and the heart, and that those 2 go together. So we remember the time by anchoring it, and we also have the overflow of spirit coming in. And as we light our candles today, I want to highlight that we are lighting flame, and we are honoring the gift of the light and also the gift of the sacred dark. In all of their teachings, Ibrahim Baba wove in the luminosity of the darkness. And so we'll enter into our candle lighting today with luminous dark chant, and then our candle lighting / chalice lighting reading will be words from Ibrahim Baba as our opening into this holiday and to this time of hearing the sacred stories of beginning again. So this luminous dark is rooted in a phrase, Aswad Nurani, Arabic for luminous dark. So let's say this together. Aswad Nurani. Aswad Nurani.
Aswad Nurani.
Try it once more. Aswad Nurani.
Aswad Nurani.
Great. And now we're going to chant it a bunch of times. You'll learn the song with me. Once we have the song going, we'll bring it down and hear some words. That will be our invocation for our candle lighting today. Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, the luminous dark.
Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, the luminous
Let's try that again.
Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, the luminous dark. Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, the luminous dark.
Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns.
Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns.
Darkness through which the world is begun.
Darkness through which the world is begun.
Darkness more brilliant.
Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Darkness through which the world is begun. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Darkness through which the world is begun. Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, the luminous stars. Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, the luminous stars. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Darkness through which the world is begun. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Darkness through which the world is begun. Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad the luminous dark. Aswanurani, 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 the luminous darkness. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Darkness through which the world is begun. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Darkness through which the world is begun.
And we receive now words from Alone with the Alone by Ibrahim Baba, read by
Arising in the luminous darkness, to pray for the dying and the dead, to accompany them, to remember them, to sing to them, the dead of all the wars going on everywhere, at every second, at every inhalation and exhalation. For we are all indeed from the source, and it is to that source that we are all returning. Too many dying, Earth's bodies dying, with all of these bodies dying. Return again. We do not have to abase darkness in order to exalt light. This is the Aswad Narani, the luminous darkness, more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Aswad Narani, luminous darkness, demonization of darkness is at the roots of body hatred, hatred of women and their bodies, destruction of peoples of the colors of the earth, fear and hatred of the erotic, queer, transphobia, Islamophobia, Judeophobia, fear and hatred of paganism and earth-based traditions, fear and hatred of people with disabilities, etc., fear of wombs, fear of tombs. First time I consciously experienced as a child PS 51 with the line, "Purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean. Wash me and I shall be whiter than snow." My response was, "But I do not want to be whiter than snow." When I experience people who are not brown identified rambling on with every other sentence about dark to define negative emotions, spaces, etc., and darkness is everything evil, diabolical, and destructive, I wonder if they wonder about the impact this demonizing of darkness has on brown people or any other beings who feel profoundly erased and demonized by that. Is part of privilege not having to think about the consequences of what one says? Of not thinking that some people might experience this as something very suffocating? This is part of my Mimi Tzrayim, my coming out from a narrow place. I have reached a point where I just need to say no more demonizing the darkness and embrace the darkness. Is there room anymore for endarkenment? Even if there is not, I am holding that space. The space of a chant that Joanne F. Henry taught me in Berkeley eons ago. Come down into the darkness. Come down into the darkness. Come down into the darkness. Let the one you want to be born. I used it in a spring festival in which we descended into darkness, there to discover a garden with a fountain filled with gardenias, jasmine, and oranges, and candles. Aswad Narani, luminous darkness, a place of death and birth. As we develop counter-oppressive translations of sacred texts and rituals, let us not keep language or gestures that demonize darkness, even though the rest of our translations are far more careful about gender inclusivity, etc. It is like the language that we use that implies that disabilities mean lack of agency. I got blindsided. I'm paralyzed with fear. They're just deaf to our cries, etc., etc. This is a very primal part of the liberation from narrow places.
Aswanurani, 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 the luminous light. Aswanurani, 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 the luminous light. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Darkness through which the world is begun. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns. Darkness through which the world is become. Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, the luminous light. Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, Aswad Nurani, the luminous light.
The story that we are about to receive about the creation of the world, a blueprint for how newness emerges, begins also in this place of great dark. According to Jewish mysticism, the world was born out of the great nothingness, the great void, and the deep cave. And it's the contraction inside of that vast expanse that sparks the creation. And it's this story that we'll be listening to today. And I feel really blessed to have among us the totem object of the Jewish people, the Torah. I'm curious how many of you practice sacred traditions that have a physical totem object, like where the sacred energy is imbued in a physical thing. I'd love to see hands. So some folks are used to there being like a physical representation that when a thing comes out, it's magic. Some of you may be less familiar or less comfortable with that way. I know for me, and for many of my Jewish friends and family, there's this deep wrestle because we have this palpable sense of holiness when the Torah is present, and also a deep distaste for much of what is said inside the scroll. A deep wrestle with the violence and the misogyny and so many strands that are problematic, and yet also deep reverence for many strands of the story that are so sacred. And many of us go through these stories with a fine-tooth comb, and also with a psycho-spiritual lens, wondering what these stories of our ancestors or our mythic ancestors might be telling us in terms of how to show up in the world on our spiritual paths, on our paths working for justice today. And so we listen to these stories with a reverence, with a sense of deep wonder, and also with high critique. And I invite you, even though we're just going to be reading from the very beginning today, I invite you to also be in whatever of those angles or lenses is right for you as we listen to the story of beginning. And I want to name also that listening to the stories of Torah invite us to activate whatever energies in the story feel most relevant for us. And the stories that we're reading today at this first day of the new cycle are an invitation into receiving blessing on our own beginnings, looking at the ways that in our lives, even though we have so much beneath us, so much life that we've lived, today, every one of us is beginning something new. Maybe it's a dream or a desire or a way of being that we're wanting to step into with freshness or with new possibility. And as we're reading these stories today, I'll invite you to be holding in your heart and in your mind and in your possibility what newness wants to be for you, what you're wanting to anchor and seed and grow. And so that's how we'll be weaving in this Torah service. We'll begin with a revealing. Is there anyone who would like to have a blessing in your life of something being revealed? If so, if you want energy of, is that a deep breath from Shannon? Great. So if you will come help me uncover the Torah so that the energy of revealing the Torah can also be with you. We'll take this cloth off and then we'll take the next back to the new seat. Something has been revealed and now you change your spot. I don't know. So when we read from Torah, there's a stepping forward. Everyone here will hear what I'm chanting, and I'll offer an invitation before I'm chanting it for you who feel like you want an extra blessing from those specific words to come closer. But coming closer is called an aliyah, it's a coming forward, a stepping up, a leaning in to say yes to receiving the blessing. Before I start chanting, I just want to say a word about this scroll. Any Torah scroll is a labor of great love. It takes a scribe, a sofer, or a soferet, about 14 months of scribing full-time to craft one scroll. And the scroll itself is on animal parchment, usually deerskin with special ink. This scroll is thought to be about 150 years old from Poland. It's a Holocaust rescue scroll. It's with us by the great generosity of Ernest Rose Benner, who's a recent graduate of PGTU and has long-term loaned their Torah to Makam Shekhinah, the Jewish Sufi spiritual community that Ibrahim Baba and Asa Fendi and I attend. And so it's a gift to have this scroll with us here today. And as you can see, there's a lot here and not a lot here because we're at the very beginning. So as I unroll this, what we'll be looking at is the stories that begin in a beginning. And you may have heard these first words of Torah, these first words of the Hebrew Bible translated in the beginning. Who has heard that translation before? In the beginning. It's kind of become codified that way. It's not an accurate translation of Hebrew, like kind of astoundingly, because it's a pretty big deal. It actually is more accurately translated in a beginning or in beginning rather than in the beginning. The meaning changes dramatically when we don't assume that there was just this one version. So I'll invite us to today understand this story to be in beginning or in a beginning. And we'll chant 2 or 3 of the days of creation today. The first day of creation, I'll read the English of what I'll be chanting, and we'll find themes together that are highlighted in this first day. And then I'll invite you to come up if the themes resonate with you. When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep and wind from God sweeping over the water, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness God called night. There was evening, and there was morning, a first day. What themes do you notice in this first day? What are we learning about here?
Well, there was, in this first day, there's an earth, but it's not formed yet.
There's an unformed earth. What else? Categorization. And specifically light and dark, themes we've already been playing with today. There was light and there was dark. I'm not saying one is over the other. There are 2. So we have anything else that stands out for you there? Yes, Sharon.
I love the idea of having a spark of energy that makes it all come into fruition.
Yes, a spark coming into fruition. One more. Anything else? Yeah. So we have on this first day an invitation into the newest of the new, the very, very, very first step, the very spark of beginning. We have something massive and amazing, Earth, that is not fully formed yet. We all know what this is like to be in a creative process that hasn't come into full form. This first day holds the blessing of being with creation before it is codified, while it is in process, while it's right new. And it also holds the blessing of light and dark, and of, I'll say, perhaps also distinction and balance. And if any of these themes are themes that are relevant for you or things you would like blessing on or activation around in your life, I invite you to come close, to come forward to the Torah now as we receive the chanting of the first day. And if you are at home wanting to lean in, you can just wave your hand or raise your hand and we'll know that you're coming forward too. And I'll offer a blessing and then I'll move. Baruch atah Adonai Baruch, Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher atzavanu kol ha'amim v'netanu. And we hear now the story of the first day. And you can feel free to lean in if you want to touch the wood or anything, you're welcome. Or you can Bereshit. Actually, I want to make sure everyone can see the words. Are you in enough that you can see if you want to be? You don't have to, but if you want to, come look. You'll see that there are no vowels in the Torah, which Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'haaretz hayta tohu v'avohu v'choshech al pnei tehom v'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim v'yar Elohim yehi or v'yehi or v'yar Elohim et ha'or kito v'yabel Elohim bein ha'or u'bein ha'choshech v'yikra Elohim la'or yom v'la'choshech ha'layla v'yehi erev v'yehi boker yom echad. And there was evening and there was morning, a first day. Yishaberach Avotenu V'Imotenu Abraham Yitzhak Yaakov Sarah Rachel Leah and Zilpah. May the Holy One who bless all of those who have come forward for this reading. May the Holy One bless all of those who have come forward for this reading. With whatever they are needing in relation to this portion, may they know blessing on what is new, blessing on what they are beginning, blessing for their creative sparks, blessing that in the coming into being, even when it is messy, the process is guided, held, and delightful. May they know balance and distinction in right proportion. May the blessings of the light and the blessings of the dark be upon us all. And let us together say, Amen. Thank you to you who have come forward for this first day of creation, that you received whatever blessings drew you to come close here. I'm going to invite you now to lean out so you can come back in again if you wish for the next day of creation. This is like an accordion style engagement with sacred text. And our second day of creation goes like this. Listen to see what goodness you find in it. God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the water, that it may separate water from water. God made the expanse and separated the water which was below the expanse from the water which was above the expanse, and it was so. God called the expanse sky, and there was evening and there was morning, a second day. What do we find on the second day of creation? What is the myth or the sacred story that is being told here? What are themes? Water. This is a day of water. It's a day of water, and it's also a day that the water below is separated from the water above. And in my understanding, what's being talked about is these waters, wet waters, sea waters, being separated from the waters that are now known as sky. That the horizon is created, and there is the sea, and there is the sky. The waters that sometimes fall, but sometimes don't. And so I hear in this day of creation an invitation to presence again to the blessing of distinction, of boundaries, the importance that having delineation can bring into our lives. That when we have distinction and boundaries, more is sometimes possible than when we have just one great nebulous expanse. Also, this day of creation, according to this story, highlights the importance of the water. And so for me, whenever we read this day of creation, it of course invites us to turn our attention to the health of the waters and to holding in prayer and in sacred focus a commitment to showing up well, to support the health of the waters, to do what we can to dismantle, fight against privatization of the waters, and to really, the way that I understand healing from a trauma-informed perspective is to do what we can to build positive resource. And so one way that I hold prayer for the health of the waters is to bring into my consciousness places where the waters are pristine and clear and good and well, and to invite those waters to somehow make their way to all the waters, that energy of wellness expand. Are there any other things you heard on this day that you want to name in kind of like the second step on this journey of creation in this sacredness? So I'll invite you to yet again anew, if you already came forward or if you didn't, any who are called and any at home as well, to come close if this second day of creation speaks to you, if this teaching on giving attention to the waters, this also teaching on giving attention to the air, because we're paying attention to the sky, the air, which is a companion to the water. If water energy or air energy or yet another layer of distinction speaks to you, I invite you again to come forward as we hear the second day. Vayomer Elohim Yehi Rakia betoch hamayim, Vayehi magil beinayim lamayim, Vayas Elohim et harakia, Vayavel ben hamayim, Asher mitachat harakia, Vayavel hamayim asher me'al harakia, Vayehi chein, Vayikra Elohim harakia shamayim, Vayehi erev, vayehi boker yom sheni. And there was evening, and there was morning, a second day. May those who came forward for this Aliyah, the second day of creation, be blessed in their tending the health of the waters. May they be blessed in their creating distinctions, in right boundaries, and in knowing where to place the lines in their lives. Let us together say, Amen. We have one more day of creation, so I invite you, if you lean in, to lean out, so you can choose to come forward yet again if you wish. Here we go with the third day. Listen for themes. God said, let the water below the sky be gathered into one area that the dry land may appear, and it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of waters called sea. And the Holy One saw that this was good. And God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, seed-bearing plants, fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, seed-bearing plants of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that this was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, a third day. What do we have on this third day of creation? Life. In what form?
In the form of
Life in the form of plants. Yeah.
with fruits and seeds.
Fruits and seeds. Yes, this is what we have on this day. Life, fruit, seeds, vegetation, nourishment, possibility. And so for me, when we read this third day, there's so much possible here. It asks us to pay attention to our relationship with all of creation, in particular with our plant kin. Also, it invites us to pay attention to the cycles of nourishment, of planting, of eating, of composting, of what it would be like to be living inside of a nourishment system that was actually in full support of our bodies, all bodies, and the earth body, what that would mean to be living in right reciprocity. And also an invitation to look at how we are nourishing ourselves in our lives. And this could be nourishment in the form of physical food or whatever else is nourishing for you, to be paying attention as we turn to new cycles to what are the ways you are awesomely nourished and nourishing yourself, and what are the places where the nourishment in your life could be honed at next level, and what are the ways that what you are offering in the world is nourishing to others. What are ways that that nourishment also could be more whole and perhaps more reciprocal. If any of these strands speak to you, I invite you to come forward for our third and final Aliyah today, this third day of creation. Though there are many more days of creation in this story, this is the only other one we'll read. If you wish to look on the as much as you want. Vayomer Elohim, Mikavu Hamayim, Mitachat Hashamayim, El Makom Echad, V'tera'eh Hayabasha V'yichlein, V'yikra Elohim Layabasha Eretz, Umikvei Hamayim Karayamim, Vayar Elohim Kitov, Vayomer Elohim Tadshe Haaretz Teshet, Esav Mazri Azera Eitz Peri, Oseh Peri Lemino, Asher Zaravo Al Haaretz Vayichein, Vatzotze Haaretz Teshet, Esav Mazri Azera Leminehu, Vetzoseh Peri Asher Zaravo Leminehu, Vayar Elohim Kitov, Vayerev, Vayivoker Yom Shlishi, and there was evening and there was morning, a third day. May all of those who came forward for this Aliyah be blessed with aligned nourishment in their lives. May what they partake of and take in be of such deep and aligned support to them in their lives, and may all of their creation and actions be nourishing too. May we be in right relationship with our plant kin. May the cycles of seed, fruit, and harvest be aligned well and good. And let us together say, may it be so. Thank you to you who have come forward. Don't lean out yet, because at the end of this third coming forward, it's customary to offer prayers for healing. So I'll invite you to come close and either touch the Torah or touch someone touching the Torah. So if you are on the outside wanting to lean in, you can feel free, or you can stay where you are. And those of you at home, I'm raising an arm to you so you're included in our prayers for healing. And for our prayers for healing today, we'll use a prayer that I learned from Ibrahim Baba. It's the Arabic Ya Shafi, may the healer heal. And we'll sing that, and I'll invite you, once we have a drone going with it, to call forth the names of any of you who are wanting to include in your prayers for healing. Ya Shafi, 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 Ya Shafi. Call names of those of you who are Shafi, Ya 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 Shafi. May healing be brought completely to all of the people beings. And I invite you to still stay close as we gently cover the Torah for the completion of this holiday time and for our time together today before closing chant with the shofar, the ram's horn. And the shofar is used as a call to attention. It's said to be a cry that breaks open the gates of heaven, whatever heaven might be, and also that breaks open the gates of our heart. And it really asks us to open to our vulnerability, to the vulnerability that it is to be alive, and to open also to new ways of being, perceiving, and healing. And I like to hear the shofar even more than I like to blow the shofar. I'm not the master of this instrument, but so what I'll do to ensure that we all have like a really good listening to shofar is I'll blow the shofar, but before I do, we're going to practice together being shofaros. So you may have played with me before in this practice of embodying the shofar. We all will make sounds. We'll open to the vessel of sound that we each are. And so the first sound, the call for it, they're calls. Like basically I say tekiah, and then the shofar would normally sound, but we're going to be shofaros. So I say tekiah, and then we together go, tekiah, tekiah, one more tekiah, and then I would say shavarim, and then there would be a call that would go 3 times. Let's try that. Shavarim, shavarim, back to tekiah, tekiah, shavarim, and then there's trua, which is 9 quick ones. I know it's hard. Like that. Take trua. And you can watch my fingers if you're confused. Tekiah. 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 Shavarim. Trua. Once more through. Tekiah. 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 Shavarim. Shavarim. Teruah. I'm going to try blowing, and then I'll give a call for tekiah gedolah, which means the great tekiah, which means basically we're making a sound that never ends. Let's see how we do that one. But first, if you remember the names, maybe you can give me a tekiah, just like say the call.
Tekiah. Tekiah. Tekiah.
Tekiah.
Shavarim. Shavarim.
And then trua is the 9.
Trua.
And so now you can give me a tekiah gedolah, and then I'm going to give you one. So first I'll do this, and then we'll do it with our voices.
Tekiah Haggadah.
Tekiah gedolah. Aswanurani, 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 the luminous star. Aswanurani, 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 the luminous star. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns, darkness from which the world is begun. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns, darkness through which the world is begun. Aswanurani, 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 the luminous star. Aswanurani, 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 the luminous star. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns, darkness through which the world is begun. Darkness more brilliant than 10 billion suns, darkness through which the world is begun. Aswanurani, 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 the luminous star. Aswanurani, 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 the luminous star. And be blessed in all of the beginnings that we are amidst wherever we are in our sacred cycle, and maybe to gratitude and to great hostility as we flow from this place of connected community of receiving and creating sacred sounds into what is next. May our prayer, our devotion, and our gathering be for great good in our lives and in the lives of our community and this. Thank you each for coming together to celebrate this holiday. It's really sweet and special to be here with you at this moment that for me is a very special one, and that marks the end of the beginning of the new year.